That's why I don't get the Hey!
I stole this bike from your dad.
He's so cool!
Hey, what's up y'all? We're back with another action figure review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Toy Battalion, The Last Prince. Anyone interested in this figure is going to call him Noctis, and we're going to get right into it. Now I'm going to start by saying this video is going to be all over the place. Doing a review for this figure was kind of a last afterthought. I've made so many different edits to this figure. It's pretty much dramatically altered, so I'm going to try to keep this video as organized as possible, but just know that going in, the reason why I bought this Noctis figure is I'm a fan of Final Fantasy. As I usually mention when I do Final Fantasy reviews, I do have 7, I haven't completed it. I have this game too, but ultimately I just end up falling asleep or just like leveling up. Noctis is like the coolest Final Fantasy protagonist after Cloud, so I had to get some representation of him. Now when it comes to the figure, that's a whole nother story. The first thing I noticed when I opened him up was how long his neck was. Honestly, it's a little jarring, and then upon fooling around with him a little bit more, the more I played with him, the more his hair started chipping, the paint on it, as well as the paint on the face and chin, so I was definitely bummed out about that. Me calling myself the expert paint primer dude of the year, went back and tried to see if I could fix it, and it started off a small space I wanted to correct, and it ended up being like damn near his whole face. Up close it looks really bad, but I think from a distance you can kind of get away with it.
That's what she said. Hi.
Thinking maybe I should go back and get another version, but then I'm like, man, is it really worth it to get another copy? In addition to massacring his face, I also went and tried to touch up his hair. I gave him a little bit of silver highlights, trying to make it a little more game accurate, which didn't really turn out so well, but I'm okay with that part. Of course, I went and trimmed that neck just so the head could sit a little bit lower. At the moment, there is no double ball joint in the neck because I was in between swapping them out with the original for the sake of the review. I also went and swapped out that double ball joint that originally came with the figure with this one that came from SH Figuarts, I think. I did have to enlarge the head cavity and the neck cavity in order to make that piece fit, and now I'm kind of wondering, I don't know, sometimes it looks like the head sits a little bit too low on that neck, so I might just go back, maybe fill it with silicone or something and re-put that piece back in there. I don't know, you tell me what you think. And also another problem I was running into with this guy's articulation is looking up, there was sort of a spring motion. I don't know if the peg was too long or was too much rubber on the neck, but it kind of had this bobble type of movement. It wouldn't stay in one position, and looking up, he doesn't get much more range than he did before, but now the position actually sits. And even with all the movement he had straight out the box, he didn't look down as much as I would have liked him to either, so that was a little surprising. And I don't want to rag on this figure too tough. I do want to talk about the tailoring. They done his outfit really nice. I'm guessing it does look accurate. I never looked too closely at his clothes and all that, but I do love the designs on the shirts. It does hinder his articulation because he is wearing 2 shirts, so it's going to get real tight trying to get his arms all the way around. I might just go back and snip the sleeves off if I get a second copy, but I do like the tampography, or I'm not even sure if that's tampography. How they did the design on the shirt looks great. You can see a little spider logo on the back too of his little jacket. That looks great too. And I also noticed his torso isn't the same complexion as his neck, which isn't the same complexion as his arms. Even his hands aren't consistent in their complexion, so that's a little odd. Maybe they just collabed a whole bunch of different parts from other figures. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I do wish it was a little more consistent with his skin tone. I think his shoulders also could be a little bit more broader like Noctis from the game, or maybe I'm off the mark with that one, but I do definitely think they should have swapped out the white pegs at his ankles for black ones, just so it'll look all part of the same uniform color. You do have floating pieces down there for his calves, so that's pretty cool, and you can remove that, so that's fine and dandy, but once you start using that ankle articulation, you just leave that joint exposed. I also went and put the McFarlane mods on his torso straight out the box. His side to side was actually pretty decent, but going forward it left a lot to be desired, so I did end up sanding that part down by the joint for his lower torso, and he moves much better, but still not at the mark. Like, I missed that Romanky Revoltech shit. The rest of his articulation is pretty solid. He goes back a good amount, double joints at the elbows, nice bicep rotation. He does have some pretty good leg range, but when it comes to those knees, it almost functions like a single joint, but it looks like a double joint. He does have a decent thigh swivel, and when you get to those ankles, you'll see just how exposed that joint is right there once you start moving them around. If you wanted a closer look at what his jacket looks like, I'll put a clip at the end of the video, but I do like what they did for his pants. The stitch work, that looks really good. There are no pockets at all on any of his outfits, so I'm okay with that. I do wish the length was a little longer though, as sometimes it kind of rides up when you're using that articulation. At one point I think the strings at his waist was tied in a bow tie, so I'll have to go back and see if I can reconfigure that. In order to fasten his pants, they used a strip of Velcro, and I don't have a problem with that, but the Velcro doesn't really hold the pants fastened as well as I would have hoped. For some reason, they're not mentioning in the instructions that when you get figures like this, you want to remove the outfit and wash it plenty of times, because just by enjoying the figure, you're getting a whole bunch of bleeding. Shoot, I might need to take this body and give it to one of my female figures, you know what I'm saying? It just occurred to me that not only the thighs, but the knee joints are put on backwards. So it turns out once I made the adjustments to his head and neck cavity, I was able to swap his head with that V-Toys figure body. Not really much of anything, but it's kind of cool head swap. For your accessories, so this version of The Last Prince actually comes with 4 additional effect bonus accessories. I think they're included with the first batch, but those are still circulating online if you wanted to get your hands on that version. I do not know the names of any of these weapons. I'm sure they have some glorious names in the game, but I didn't go back and research all that. If you know, you know. If you look closely, there are wings sculpted on all of these special accessories. I guess that's supposed to represent power, legacy, lineage, stuff like that. You could even make out some texturing on many of these handles. They really put a lot into these. And this effect right here, it almost looks like it's a bird on this one. I wouldn't try bending these effects pieces, but some of the parts do have a little bit of give. Just look at all that embroidery design. That looks awesome. Last but not least, you have this mallet type of sphere accessory, which is just as detailed as the other accessories. Man, they packed a lot into these things. You want to be careful about the middle of this part, as it looks like it could snap. And I wish his grip on these weapons were a little bit better as well. But you know what? I think the music really stops when you take a look at these other swords that he comes with. The ones that aren't powered up, the paint on these look magnificent, marvelous, exquisite. I love the way these swords look. I think these are the best looking swords I've seen across any accessory from anybody, really. Like, these swords look great. There are no hinges or anything. There's no revolver motion on the gun part. But man, these things look good. They don't detach or anything, which I kind of wish they did, but just looking at them as is, they look so nice. I wouldn't say the tips of these swords are incredibly sharp, but you do want to be careful. Once again, I do wish the grip was a little bit tighter on these weapons too. I like how the gold paint brings it out, and that gunmetal just looks epic. The Last Prince here comes with a couple different hand options as well. This hand right here is kind of like one of the unique hands. He doesn't have one for the other side. The paint does not look that good, but the sculpting for the hand itself looks pretty good. It's hard to make out the nails though. I do wish the color of his hands was matched better with his wrist. It does fit a little bit loose on that joint. And then you have this hand right here, which is a unique hand as well. I do like the sculpt work for the gloves. Once again, paint isn't the cleanest, and then he comes with your left and right praying or begging hands. Lastly, he's got a set of your grip and your fist hands. The hands do port on and off nice and easy, so decent spread of accessories. For your size comparison, so none of these figures are lore specific. I just thought I'd throw a couple of them out there, give you guys a sense of his height. We got him next to your Classified Series Sergeant Slaughter. We have 2 figures from your V-Toys Figure Body 1 line and your Ed Star Studio Undead Ninja. Next, we have him next to your Jada Toys Ken, your Final Fantasy VII Barrett from Bring Arts. I can't remember this wolf's name, but he's from Bring Arts as well. Another one of the Final Fantasy figures. Your Figma Cyberpunk figure and your very cool Villa. And lastly, here we have him next to your Playmatia Berserk, your Kazuya from SH Figuarts, your CT Toys Gambit, and your Kotobukiya. I missed that. Zero Model Kit. So final thoughts on the Toy Battalion, The Last Prince figure. This was my first venture in the Toy Battalion, and I'd be lying if I said that this was a great first impression. Generally speaking, I like the way he looks. Nice facial features, the hair sculpt looks good, the body type is decent too, the clothes look good. Everything looks really good except that neck. That neck looks horrible, and I'm pretty disappointed I had to go back and edit it. So for his look, I think I'll give him a 7. For his accessories, the unique hands kind of threw me off. I'm surprised they didn't give us an alternate set for those, so they could have did that a little bit different. But the weapons, man, those weapons are nice. Surprised they didn't give him an extra head sculpt or a stand, but I'm gonna give him an 8 for his accessories. I forgot to mention he does have a soft diaper, and the piece they use for his upper chest is also a soft piece of plastic. So that does help with the articulation, but it is still limited when you have both of the shirts on. And let's not forget that spring motion. He also could have used a little more range in the ab crunch, but the biggest issue with this figure is all of the paint rub. So for that, I'm gonna give his quality a 5, and I'm gonna give his articulation an 8. If you're asking if I recommend this figure, I would still recommend him, but you probably gotta seal the paint as soon as you crack him open. Final score, I'm gonna give him a 7. Alright y'all, that's the video. I'd love a like. If not, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.